Well. It looks like midnight and the whole scavenger mine just got significantly darker. If you feel like you've been in the scavenger mine so long, you can't remember the color of the Cardano logo, let alone the name of that shape, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, everyone. Let's see who's here. Mission Zambia stake pool. Good morning. B117I8Z. Yes, that is indeed the beaver moon we were discussing last night. That's exactly why I was in here. I went through many iterations of this with smaller moons, but I remembered it had to be the beaver moon. Yep, Mission Zambia, you were first. What is before the brightest sunrise? I think that is indeed the right question. From Daniil. Smothcoin says, yo, morning glory, darker night, sir. That's right. Right before the night is darkest, right before sunrise. That is right. Otis Fricio, how's it going? What's up? Cardano for the win. Morning. Good afternoon, Raz. you scavenge the night. I was born in it. That's right. This is kind of a Bane. He's not quite a Bane looking character, but he might as well be. Ada Eclipse, let's go. Thank you for joining us while you're making dinner. Neo Chad, yeah, you were not first like you were the other night, if I remember right. Renee, yeah, feel free to bring up rumors. If anybody has any rumors they want to discuss, feel free to bring them up. Jordan for America, let's go. James Syracuse, good to see you. Yep, Kristen, that is the beaver moon. That is the beaver moon we discussed the other night. I didn't know exactly how to I didn't want to overlay an image of a beaver. I didn't want to make it that obvious, but I thought it better have a pretty super moon in it. Bindocam, were you the one that told us about the beaver moon? Was that you last night? I'm trying to remember who had the info on the beaver moon. I actually did check. I saw some bunch of information on the various months and what they corresponded to on social media after our little discussion last night. Sub-Zero, yo, what's up? That's right. Hopefully tonight is not an army of Fibonaccios. I hope that's not what happens. Dragon's Den Books, thank you for catching us live. You are live. That is right. We are live. Thanks. I'm glad to be back. That was Bindocam. Yeah, thank you for the beaver moon information. So I think we decided tonight is actually peak beaver moon, right? It should be peak beaver moon for the people for whom it's night right now. But let's jump in here and talk about what I think is one of the most interesting things that happened today and what made it a darker night. Because definitely, I think we all agree, a supermoon does not make for a darker night. It makes for a more illuminated night, but the night became richer. Specifically, midnight became richer for us today. And when I think of an enrichment of the night, I think that's got to be a darker night. So here's what, oh, nope, that is the wrong tab. What we're looking for is this. 2 updates are coming to Scavenger Mine. The total token night token allocation, the total night token allocation for the phase is increasing. So you probably remember previously we had about 626 million night tokens that were going to be allocated to Scavenger Moon. That number has now become 1 billion. 1 billion. So they're saying Scavenger Mine will still run for 21 days. That means approximately 47.6 million night tokens will be allocated during each 24-hour cycle of the Scavenger Mine, compared with 30 million previously. And the cool thing about this is it's retroactive. This update applies retroactively. Retrospectively, participants who have been participating on Scavenger Mine will see their allocations to date increase by approximately 50% over what is currently shown. Does anyone know if that is currently, is anybody currently seeing that in the, is anyone currently seeing that in their balance as shown in the as shown in the interface. So Daniil says OpenAI bailout is making my night darker. Is that happening? Is that something that's in the news right now? Is that going on? B117 says beaver pelts are thickest tonight. Just a fact. Oh, so many layers there. So many layers there. No pun intended as to thickness. Juan says the night will bring a bright day for Cardano holders. I think you're right. I think you're right. Jay Marie, thanks for joining. Feel free to join early, late, or whenever you want. Just happy if people can join. They had to pump it up because it was dropping to less than 2 per solution. Yeah, I kind of agree. They did kind of have to pump it up. I noticed they also increased the number of decimal places they were showing us in terms of our percentage share. So like if you're running a single miner, you're kind of like back on the board. At least one of my single miners, the one I looked at this evening, was back on the board. It wasn't all zeros. So Danil says not seeing it yet. Otis Free Job says, damn it, you got me to start mining again. I know. I keep like, I feel like I'm sort of like waiting for some excuse to just close my laptops and not mine anymore. I'm like waiting for some excuse. And I think the Midnight Foundation knew that a lot of us mentally were in that place. So they're like, let's pump up the rewards. They also, another thing, they also let us know that the final day of the scavenger mine, API access will be deactivated. So starting from 0 hours UTC on November 19th, participants will be limited to browser-based sessions for the final 24 hours. If people don't know, a lot of the really heavy industrial grade mining going on is happening over API. They're not even in the browser, they're using API. And they're going to deactivate that. They say they're going to deactivate that on the final day. I think whenever you have proof of work, people are always going to find ways around this. So I think there will still be industrial grade mining going on. It's just the API access will be deactivated. So people will find ways around it. Bindocam says they haven't updated the totals, but I also believe they're hinting in OpenAI bailout. Tell me, I'm gonna have to research that a little. Why would they be bailing them out? Like, why does OpenAI need a bailout? Somebody explain that to me. Adam Olson says, let's get honest. Charles said Laos will ship in 2026. I remember 2021 in the Layerverse. That still hasn't happened. We will bathe in their tears. I know, we're trying, Adam. We're trying. So if for people don't know, Adam's referencing some videos from back in 2021. One of them, the most important one, is probably about this concept of a layerverse in Cardano, where we got various layers besides the L1 that can make arbitrary compromises between the 3 legs of the blockchain trilemma: decentralization, scaling, and security. So, and now we would add a 4th leg being privacy. So I think we're actually making progress toward the layerverse. Honestly, I think it's progress that we've got this big giant partner chain now. I mean, you could argue that Hydra, kind of added layers, and we've already seen that in operation, sort of on mainnet, even though it's kind of an L2, it's a state channel. So it's not really mainnet, but in operation, in production, shipped, we've seen Doom run. That was an added layer. But I think Midnight is the first really, really, really big layer that's received a lot of mainstream attention. Mainstream in Cardano, not just being some niche product that somebody was running as part of a smaller project. Hola, Rulo. How's it going? Thanks for joining. Neo confirmed, still waiting for it to update. Mines did terrible today. I was a little bit tied up today and I haven't seen my totals, but I'll be very curious to compare my totals to yesterday. Definitely yesterday was worse than the day before. So I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. Daniil says, I was getting 300 in some wallets. Whoa, 300 from a single miner, you were getting 300. That's crazy. If so, smash that like. Thanks, James. Appreciate that. A bunch of the bulk miner devs released their miners, so it's been slammed. Yeah, That's probably not. If we wanted decentralization in the scavenger mine, bulk mining is probably not what we should be shooting for. Daniil says they did. They're using Vercel as human verification. Okay. Let's see. Renee says, are people still reading Justin's tweets? I thought we were ignoring. Yeah. People got pretty obsessed with Justin Bond's tweets for a second there, didn't they? I also kind of thought we were just ignoring him at this point, but people did get pretty interested. So another thing happened today, another thing that doesn't really have to do with Cardano itself, but does have to do with Cardano's biggest personality. Today, apparently, was the birthday of our own Charles Hoskinson. I thought JJ Seiler wrote a very nice little tribute here to Charles, co-signed by Ben down below here, Ben O'Hanlon. So Gigi Seiler wrote, my wish for you is that the whole world sees you as I see you, guided by an enormous heart and humor, a profound sense of duty and responsibility to both the people you lead and humanity, reverence for the past and exuberance for a better future. This is beautifully put. JJ Seiler did a great job in writing this. Obviously, he knows JJ much better than the sort of normal community participants like me and probably like most of you. I think JJ obviously spending much more time with Charles. In my case, I only see him on the AMAs. I see the same thing as everybody else. But even just watching him on the AMAs, I think I agree strongly with this. When I watch Charles on his AMAs, what I see is a lot of like empathy. I see a lot of empathy and wanting to serve, this sense of duty, a duty to improve the human condition, in this weird niche way through this thing we're calling blockchains. But it does seem like Charles is constantly observing, sort of his fulfilling this duty to improve the human condition. He does that while not being a super boring guy. So people can fault Charles for a lot of things, but he does seem to be serving some duty outside of himself, and he does it in a way that's pretty entertaining to watch. So a lot of credit to Charles. So some more news. Speaking of the ecosystem, the Cardano blockchain ecosystem constitution version 2.3 did not pass. We hit that expiration date. It did not pass. And after I voted no for the reasons I talked about last night, Emergo and Yoroi also signed on. And 2 members of the Constitutional Committee also voted that they were not in favor of this particular amendment. I haven't seen the Constitutional Committee members' rationale for voting no yet, but they're supposed to be voting, based on whether or not it would be constitutional for this to pass, not necessarily the merits of the governance action. I think a lot of the people who voted no, they voted no for the same kinds of reasons we talked about last night. So, of course, immediately a brand new version was offered up. And, I only gave a cursory reading to the tweet that went along with the proposal, but it was mainly just to satisfy Emergo's. It seemed like Emergo's concerns were what they talked about, because the proposer said they would have to get 90% of all the rest of the votes if they didn't have Emergo on board. You can see that's, very large delegation between Yoroi and Emergo. But anyways, now there will be another round of voting on an additional version of the Constitution. So that was the conclusion of the governance action we talked about last night. So here's another post that I think it's about something we talked about previously on this channel this week, but I thought this was an interesting take. It's worth looking at here. So this is from Andrew Thruvalis. He says, Cardano community, if you're looking for a reason to keep building, this is it. Balancer, we talked about the Balancer hack on this channel. Balancer was audited 10 times, yet hackers can still come along and steal 120 million while you're sleeping. So he's quoting this post down here. Balancer went through 10 plus audits. The vault was audited 3 separate times by different firms, still got hacked for 110 million. People think it's a joke when we talk about the robbery forest, like it almost being tailor-made for it to be the place where the prince goes to lose all of his jewels. But it really is. He says, this is the reality of EVM. Account-based systems invite the same failures: shared state, reentrancy, cascading exploits. The hacks are never going to end. It will never be worthy of secure, long-term, important DeFi where yields are actually worth the risk. I've talked a million times, made so many videos about the problems with global state, and it seems like these problems are never going to be solved. The original DAO hack, the original giant hack that caused Ethereum to roll back their chain, that caused the creation of Ethereum Classic, the biggest catastrophe in Ethereum. If I remember correctly, that was a reentrancy hack. That was a reentrancy exploit originally. So we have the same problems as always. They haven't been solved. The post goes, then there's Cardano. It's deterministic. Isolated UTXO design prevents this by architecture. No global mutable state. It is reminiscent of Bitcoin itself. I'm saying this as a Bitcoiner. I own BTC. I don't even invest in ADA beyond what I would need for gas fees. So I'm not coming in with bag bias here. I just want a safe place to park my BTC as collateral for a loan or to trade other assets. So he wants to do Bitcoin DeFi on Cardano. But having read and written as a journalist countless headlines related to DeFi hacks in the past, I, along with countless Bitcoiners, lost faith that secure DeFi was anywhere close to ever being a reality. It was only in hearing about Cardano that I realized this was an architectural issue. I was shocked when I learned that Cardano hadn't suffered a single major DeFi hack in its history. That's why I find Cardano compelling. Combine that with the fact that it can share an interoperable token standard with Bitcoin through Charms Dev, and I'm confident this connection is meant to be. Keep your heads up. Enough doomerism about no liquidity, no new users, etc. They're out there. You just have to go find them and build the tools that bridge the gap. This is very well put. So, and obviously, co-founder of Charms Dev, so didn't throw that in there for no reason. He didn't. But I think he really hit the nail on the head here. There are some problems, fundamental problems with Ethereum. Global state is not great. Not being able to self-custody your staked assets, not great. It's the robbery forest. And yet it's still the biggest ecosystem with smart contracts, with sufficient expressiveness to have smart contracts. I think this is going to change. When you have worse technology, you can hold on for so long, but you can't hold on forever. And at some point, this is going to flip. At some point, this whole thing's going to flip. And just having that first mover advantage will no longer be enough. I've talked even in the last week about how Cardano is kind of like the Toyota of the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. It's already more reliable. It's already more robust. It's already more rugged. Its longevity is already going to be better. It just takes the market a while to catch up. People are still going to be buying GM and Ford products over the Toyota products for a while. And some people always will. But eventually, the entire market is going to agree the Toyota products are better, more reliable. That's where Cardano is. Not addressing this recent generation of Toyota engines and those problems. But for a while there, it was very obvious that Toyota was making more reliable cars. I think Cardano was just in that 90s phase where the people who know, who understand, who know about it, who've already been exposed to it, they know the product's better, but it takes the market a while to catch up. I think that's where we are. I think we're Toyota of the 90s, maybe early 90s, kind of like that. Otis Fricio, I was tied up. I was tied up with something interesting today, actually, but tied up with something, and I haven't been able to watch that video. Haven't been able to watch it. Okay, Danil says follow Gary Marcus. He's saying OpenAI is prepping as too big to fail since January in the interest of national security. Edge too big to fail. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. Like Sam Altman doing that wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, you know, I yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that if that's their strategy. Whether everybody buys it, I mean, 'cause there's competition in the space. There's competition in the space. I mean, Grok is pretty good. I mean, I've used OpenAI products a lot and other AI products a lot. And man, the Grok experience is pretty good. I think you guys were talking about Justin Bonds. Yep. Tarek says, agree with you. Charles is one of my most favorite guys in the space. Same. And he's entertaining. Okay, I'll take your word for it, Flying Hambone. I do not know anything about modern ball sports. I definitely played them. Quite a bit as a kid, but I don't know anything about modern ball sports. Adam says my cat improves my human condition. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people would say that. I do not. I am not a partaker in hashtag cat life, but I know the people who have them seem to love them. So I gotcha. James is an English bulldog guy. They keep him sane. Yep, same thing. I think a lot of the dog owners I know seem to enjoy the dogs. That's for sure. Mission Zambia. Yeah, I did my best, man. Did my best. Dude, Charles is definitely the boss. I mean, in kind of a couple different ways. I mean, he's a passionate, compelling guy, charismatic speaker, all those things. But also, you would not be able to employ Charles. He's the kind of guy, he can never be an employee. You could not. There's not a corporation in the world you could put Charles in and have him be employable. There's no way he could have a boss. So he's got to be a boss because there's no way that dude could have a boss. So I mean, he says he worked for Ron Paul, and Ron Paul will always be the boss to him. So I guess he did work for the Ron Paul organization for that campaign when I think he was in his 20s or something. He was pretty young, but yeah, I don't think Charles would be employable anywhere else. It'd be very hard to have him as an employee. That'd be a nightmare for whoever his boss was. Bindocam, well put. High expressiveness equals larger attack surface. Absolutely. That's that kind of yeah, that goes without saying for sure. Otis Frichov, with Robbery Forest, why are more and more institutions wanting their financial products on that chain? Not hating on them, but I honestly don't understand. I think it's pretty simple. It's exactly the same reason that if you're like, slightly elderly neighbor, figures out you're involved in crypto stuff and they want to talk to you about it, they're probably going to mention Bitcoin and they might know how to pronounce Ethereum. Like same reason. Financial institutions, I think, they are more like your elderly neighbor than we would like to admit, given how much influence they have on modern society. They are very much the same. Like they know about Bitcoin and Ethereum for the same reason as your elderly neighbor. I think that's really what it is. Tarek, yes, Alta Vista. I told the story about being in college and taking some kind of an intro comp sci or electrical engineering class or something. And Alta Vista was for sure my search engine of choice among a few different competitors. And I'll never forget the day the professor walked in and started talking about this new search engine called Google. We all thought it was the stupidest name ever, but you're right. Alta Vista. Yeah, I mean, people always bring up the Betamax. There's, the analogy of Betamax versus VHS. Happens all the time. Sometimes the best technology doesn't win, but, that's just execution and commerce sells. So Huji Hammer says, might have something to do with Emergo and Cardano Foundation being not very good at what they. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, there's different opinions on Emergo and Cardano Foundation, and they're sort of like the old Emergo versus the new Emergo. So I think those are kind of two different things. Like the leadership is very different. I think that's fair to say. Flying Hambone says Bitcoin is still a Ford Model T. In a lot of ways, it is. I'm sure, I'm sure there were guys driving around in Model Ts, back in like the 50s, dudes who still had Model Ts laying around, claiming that the Model T was better than, the cars being produced in the 1950s. So that's a good point. Yep, I'm with you. I'm with you. I will take the academic approach over move fast and break things when my money lives on the things that might be broken, for sure. Yep. Hi, AOS. This is Lovey. Charles is right, and decentralization is main focus. The cream always rises to the top. Still a believer, but the dip, I know it. It hurts. It hurts. It's painful. It's painful. It's painful. No cat here, but I enjoy min swap. Yep. They definitely have a cat logo. Rumor is Sam Altman don't like whistleblowers. Well, that one whistleblower definitely died under mysterious circumstances, and his mom thinks, foul play was involved. And man, when they asked Sam Altman about that, his explanation, it was not persuasive. It seemed very sus. Sam Altman, when they asked him about the whistleblower death, his kind of talking in circles seemed very suspicious. Very suspicious. If you put a gun to my head, I would not be willing to wager my fate on Sam Altman not hiding something there. Mallow, morning. It is another day with the scary monsters. Is true. Brian Packard, good evening. Okay, so we've got all that going on. So I think this was actually well put. No surprise. Andrew Thruvalis says he used to be a journalist. He wrote this. This is well written. I think this is well put. It's not even the writing. It's just he hit on the right points. Here. There are fundamental architectural issues with Ethereum, which is why it was only Gen 2 of crypto. And it's time for all of crypto to move on to Gen 3 and beyond. Gen 3 and Gen 4 now with privacy. This is an interesting comment. Love that joke. I don't use DeFi because of staking rewards. I think this is a much more important statement in Cardano than people realize. Everybody's complaining. Why don't people in Cardano use DeFi? It's because the balance of risk to reward isn't as good as staking for most people. Most people don't want to lose their stuff. Listen, DeFi platforms, people don't want to lose their stuff. Actually, I believe the DeFi platforms already know. They know exactly why. They know exactly what kind of people are going to choose the DeFi platform over regular staking in Cardano. Like they understand that there's this trade-off. Like some people are willing to give up custody for greater rewards and, risk their assets. And some people are not. And in Cardano, that balance is very much toward not. So I don't think we need to tell the DeFi platforms. I think they already know. I think they're looking for any way to increase TVL, as they should. That's what we want them to do. We want them to act, like execute on enlightened self-interest here. We want them to act in their own interest because TVL going up is also good for the ecosystem. It's just that staking is too good in Cardano. The staking is too good. It's self-custodied. Why would you ever leave? It's this base and so far very safe return. Why would you leave? So here is, people complain about Emergo and the Cardano Foundation. Some people love them. Some people complain about them. Same could be said of IOG. Some people love IOG. Some people complain about IOG. But I prefer to look at the good things when any entity does something good or even just something interesting. And here's something I think is interesting. Here's Frederick from the CF saying, met the CEO and co-founder of Plastic Team today at UN City. They're revolutionizing how plastic recovery is verified and now finalizing their migration to Cardano. Sounds great. You're going to bring a project to Cardano or you're reporting on a project coming to Cardano. Like, we'll take migrations. Please, all projects, feel free to migrate to Cardano. And this one has a mission that I think a lot of people can get behind. And more importantly, a lot of governments could get behind. A lot of different government and other entity, initiatives would line up with this kind of thing. They say, imagine a world where every kilogram of plastic recovered is traceable, auditable, and rewarded already on mainnet. So I haven't looked into exactly what this plastic, plastic, platform does, system, whatever we want to call it, organization. I haven't looked into exactly how their tracing works, but we've seen similar stuff in crypto before. So we kind of know how, the same thing works with provenance of things like, wines and things like that. So we kind of know how tracing works, how tracing ties into crypto. But I do like who they mention as a partner, Danone. So the rest of the world knows Danone as the maker of delicious yogurts since 1919. If you're in certain parts of the Western Hemisphere, you probably have no idea who Danone is, because when they came to the Western Hemisphere in the 1940s, they called themselves Dannon and spelled it like this. So a lot of people in the Western Hemisphere know it as Dannon instead of Danone, but we're actually talking about the same entity. They just call themselves different things in different parts of the world. And they make things like, what's the one called? Activia. I think it's called Activia, the one with all the microbiotics in it. They also make Silk almond milk, so all the yogurts. So a lot of consumer foods, like very, very large brand. And obviously, as you can see here, just from their own marketing, a lot of plastic. So if these guys are on board with Danone, and they're going to get a lot of money from Danone because Danone wants to show that they're not a huge plastic polluter, at least their end consumers are not doing a lot of polluting of their products, they're probably willing to spend some money on that. So if this guy right here has tapped into that money with Danone, then that might be a great project to have on our chain. But again, we've seen like stuff like this before, and it's hard to tell, what's actually going to blossom into something awesome. Hopefully this is one of those things. Brian Packard says, we need staking. Flying Hambone says, I don't 100% understand the lack of DeFi on Cardano thing. So liquid staking is so good that prevents TVL from going up. I wouldn't be happy making paper wealth only because people are forced to stay. So here's the problem, right? And here's the way I think about this. Other people can think about it different ways. The problem is, if you go to Ethereum or any other ecosystem that doesn't have self-custodied staking, the starting point for staking is you have to give up custody anyways. So then it becomes a question of, okay, well, if I have to give up custody, what's the best balance of a high yield and security? And that decision could involve you, staking and then taking a liquid staking derivative and using that in DeFi, or just going directly to the DeFi platform. Because it's like, if you're going to give up custody to begin with, then it's like everything's on the table, everything's on your radar. Like any DeFi, anything with yield is on your radar, because step 0 is give up custody. But in Cardano, it's not like that. It's like the default is you keep custody and you can get yield. So a lot of people never make it past step 0, because step 0 isn't this thing like 100% of people have to give up custody. It's like, no, you don't have to give up custody. You can get this yield if you don't give up custody, or you can go into this higher risk zone, much higher risk whenever you give up custody, obviously. And then you can make it into Cardano DeFi. But the fact that there's this binary thing, self-custodied or not self-custodied, that's part of the problem. James Syracuse says, I don't like having to wait 5 to 30 days for my coins on stake so I can use them. Cardano is by far the best. Yeah, I mean, the queue to unstake in Ethereum is literally on this order of magnitude. It's what did we see? Didn't we see like 38 days when we last looked at it on this channel? I think the unstaking queue at one point was like 38 days, literally. Very different access and control of your assets. And in Ethereum, that's the starting point. You immediately give up custody. And at times recently, it took you 38 days to get custody back. So at that point, I can see a lot of people being like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to DeFi anyways because the staking sucks. But in Cardano, staking's pretty good. Okay, Huji Wemmer says entities that are tracking TVL don't count staking on Cardano because staked ADA isn't really locked. True, we have freedom in Cardano instead of locking, so it doesn't count. But Ouroboros would be one of the biggest DeFi platforms out there if it counted. That's the deal. We actually do have gigantic DeFi in Cardano. It's just that they don't count it because we have freedom. They hate our freedom, basically. They hate our freedom. The way staking works in Cardano was one of the main things that got me into Cardano. The more I learned, the more I know I made the right choice. Same. Yeah, self-custodied staking was huge. Because initially, self-custody was huge because of slashing. I don't want to be on a chain. It's like, the way I always described it was this: would you ever put your money in a bank where if the bank made a mistake, the Federal Reserve walks into the vault and blowtorches all the money of the depositors? You would never go to that bank. No one would go to that bank. That's what Ethereum is. That's what slashing is. It's like if your bank makes a mistake, the Federal Reserve comes in and automatically blowtorches your money. No, I would not use that bank. Slashing is the devil. Strongly agree. There is no legit security outside of layer 1, BTC, and ADA as far as it looks right now. Kind of true. It sounds, when you write it like that, at first blush, it sounds oversimplified, but actually you start thinking about it and it's like, okay, where would that, if there is security outside of layer 1, where is it? Layer 1, BTC, and ADC, I don't know. I don't know where it is. The metrics are from a flawed system. They're behind the curve. Yep. And there's now so much money in Ethereum and Solana that there's this huge incentive to not change the metrics. Let's see. Brian Packard says, just looked at Liquid. It seems like the only thing that is giving yields better than staking are stables. Okay, makes sense. Okay, love that joke. Says, after I messed up with Meld, I'm hesitant to use DeFi unless the project is highly reputable. I'm sticking now only to layer 1 projects such as Cardinal, Midnight, Aptos, CKB, Near, Sui, etc. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the same. I think a lot of us, when we first had that big like DeFi summer, or even actually prior to that, actually before that, I think a lot of us used DeFi and realized how automated market makers worked and liquidity pools and how you can suffer impermanent loss, all these things. You realize how easy it was to lose part of your monies. And when you take a few little losses like that, if you're lucky, you take a few little losses like that and you're like, okay, this is not the right way to go. And you just never use it again. That's kind of what happened with me. There's that. And then there's people who thrive on kind of the casino part of it, because at the casino, you're obviously going to lose. The whole system is designed for you to lose part of your money, every time you go. And yet casinos are some of the most successful businesses on earth, at least when the economy's good. I guess Vegas isn't too good right now, but it's one of the most profitable businesses you could possibly run. One of the most successful businesses, one of the most surefire business models. It's so good, they have to regulate it. Otherwise, there would be so many casinos everywhere because it's so good. So no surprise to me that DeFi platforms are successful because casinos are successful. But, are careful people hesitant to go to casinos? Yeah. Are careful people hesitant to use DeFi? Yeah. Flying Hambone says, everything else is a scam until proven otherwise. And I'm so sick of throwing money away testing these different scam coins. I'm with you. I do not participate in meme coins because I'm interested in real world utility. Yeah. Yeah, B117. I agree. I would like to see anybody from Emergo or the CF or IOG. I wish they were all pumping stuff out every single day. I would love to see it. I would love if they're all pumping stuff out every day. James says, I learned my lesson when I think Atmos Cosmos was like $30. I tried to unlock and sell. By the time I got my coins, 21 days later, the price was only $10. Yeah, it's like anytime you give up custody, this you can kind of assume the system was not made, with your benefits as the primary incentive. The benefit to you, crypto systems that require you to give up custody are generally made to benefit someone else as a first priority program, and then to benefit you as the end consumer, just enough to get you on the platform, just enough to keep you using the platform. But the big priority is always going to be the benefit of someone else. So, and maybe that's an exaggeration. You could say like, hey, there's like counterparties whenever you make a loan or somebody makes a swap, or even if you're providing liquidity, but really the reason the platform is there is for the people who own the platform, whether that's a DAO or, the original founders and devs, like whoever owns the platform. The first priority for them is for them to take a little tiny bit of each transaction. That's the first priority. And then keeping you on the platform as a liquidity provider, as a yield farmer, as a lender, as a borrower, as a swap user, the priority there is just to give you enough to keep you using the product. So, and you could argue like, yeah, but the bigger volume you do, the bigger profits you make, the bigger their cut's going to be. But usually actually works both ways. The bigger your profit is, the bigger your loss is, the bigger the volume is going to be, on that particular transaction, and they're still going to take their cut, regardless of how you do. So Mello says, I'm around Cardano for 6 years now. Problem here is we have a lot of stuff, but nothing is ready for big players. Yeah, and I think you could say that for a lot of crypto, actually. I think you say that for a lot of crypto. D9U, thank you. Crypto Invasion says, I lend stables. Yep. Stables solves part of the problem. Solves part of the problem in certain types of DeFi platforms when you suffer impermanent loss. Brax in Tokyo, thank you for joining in Tokyo. Thank you. Very happy to have you listening. At Cardano, feel free to join anytime. Just glad you're here. I like this. Total value trapped. Total value trapped. Locked sounds pretty pejorative on its own, total value locked, but really we should call it total value trapped. Flying Hambone says 100%. That's why they fight Cardano tooth and nail. If the price goes up, we can make money and not have to go to work. Market makers will drag this on for years if they can. Yeah, definitely something's oppressing us over here in Cardano. I think we all certainly think we should be at a higher market cap. That's how I view the world for sure. Okay. Also saw this note. I don't know much about this one. This is Alfred. You know him. I believe this is Alfred. You know him from the Cardano Hotel in Barcelona, longtime community member. He says, USDC liquidity to Cardano solved. My buddies of Apex Fusion have come to the rescue. Read and retweet if you're a Cardano happy camper. Apex Fusion brings USDC liquidity to Cardano via Stargate integration. I don't know what's going on with this. I haven't been able to investigate this very much, but this is kind of an indication to me of how big a deal USDC and tier 1 stablecoins are in Cardano. And to me, it's almost more interesting because it's sort of like that's the sort of psychological focal point right now. So I think it's kind of interesting whenever the whole community gets really focused on something. So it's like this is going to garner a lot of attention, as you can see just from this post. 26,000 views, 480 likes, 129 retweets. A lot of focus on anything that indicates USDC should be coming. If anybody knows anything about this, feel free to let me know. I haven't gone through and investigated this yet, but I think it is kind of a sign of the times that a post like this that just mentions mentions something kind of undefined about USDC coming, or at least USDC liquidity coming to Cardano, it gets immediate attention. This is sort of like the era. I feel like tier one stablecoins are to Cardano right now what Gogan was to Cardano, what smart contracts were to Cardano prior to the September 2021 Wyoming summit. Let's see. Mission Zambia says, I'd like to see Regard organize a community election for the CF board. Then I'll be satisfied. Yep. Ever since Charles made this point very clear. This is his desire. He made his desire for this to happen very clear. I think it kind of rang true with a lot of people. A lot of people are like, wait a second, this is our foundation. Why isn't there a community election? So, and we all kind of know the reasons for that. We've talked about it on this channel, but it's a good point. That's going to be a sticking point for the CF, that's for sure. Cardano says, did I read right? Midnight to offer more night, extra 50% in retrospect. Yeah, the allocation for the scavenger mine has gone up to 1 billion coins. It was previously, what was the number? 627 million, I think. I think that was the number. Let's go back and look. It was previously 626 million, and now it's 1 billion night tokens. So that's 47.6 million per 24-hour period. So total value loss should be a metric. Oh my God. What if everybody focused on a robbery forest metric? Total value lost. Ethereum and Solana would be in a much worse position than us on that. We would be doing very well on that metric. Very, very well. Brian says it takes time. It seems like everything has to grow together when we really haven't settled down with growing. Yeah, true. We have not settled down with growing. I think that's, yeah, I think the way you put that rings true to a lot of people. We haven't settled down with growing. That's true. Speaking of that, here's another sort of overall post about the philosophy of an ecosystem like ours. This is from Daniel Friedman. He often has posts like this. Daniel Friedman often has posts like this. And with this post, I think he's right, as he often is. I think he often is. So he says, I'll be honest, the thing that worries me most about the space isn't the volatility. It's how distracted we've become. And he's going to hit on something I've said a lot about Cardano and about crypto in general. And it's that we haven't actually reached this point that we need to hit. We haven't had this moment that we need to have. He says, the thing that worries me most about the space is isn't the volatility. It's how distracted we've become. Every day I scroll through endless posts about charts, Bitcoin dominance, altcoin dominance, Fibonacci's basically, and every new theory trying to explain a market that's still fringe and still early. When I step back from the euphoria and casino-like noise of crypto and look at it through a business lens, I still don't see any truly viable, successful mainstream business that has made it to mass adoption. We have not had that. I hate to describe it this way, but when I say it, it'll convey the meaning. We have not had that Pokemon Go moment when we have some DApp or other crypto business that captures the imagination of the mainstream. We have not had that moment. We haven't had that fantastic DApp that everybody wants to use. We haven't had that OpenAI moment. We haven't had that Tesla moment when the Model 3 launches and all of a sudden everybody wants a Model 3. That has not happened. We haven't had that Model T, going back to our discussion earlier, we haven't had that Model T moment, right? We haven't had that moment when everybody realizes the Tundra is the most reliable truck. That's never happened in crypto, right? It's like, to this day, crypto's been around since 2009. To this day, you ask a person in the mainstream about crypto and they're just like, it seems like it's money, but it's kind of like gambling, and like I don't really see why we need more money. It's that moment we haven't had. We need a real business that's awesome. We need an awesome business. He says the only real adoption is coming from banks and institutions, the very ones this movement was supposed to move beyond. What is that? I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. I want to see billion-dollar businesses built from Web3 first principles, decentralization, transparency, shared economy, not billion-dollar banks finding new ways to onboard more. When did we start celebrating banks buying Bitcoin? We should be celebrating new ways of doing business, real viable ideas coming on chain, succeeding, failing, evolving, getting stronger. We won't get there by waiting for banks, retail, or anyone else to make it big for us. And we definitely won't get there with this gambling, instant gratification mindset. It's time to get back to building like we did in 2012 and 2013 when this movement still had a soul. I agree so strongly with this. Well put, Dan Friedman. He's right. We need to get beyond meme coin casino, NFT casino. That's what we've been for the last two cycles. For the last two cycles, crypto has been, first it was it goes back further. First it was an ICO casino. Then it was a DeFi governance token casino. Then it was just a DeFi casino. Then it was an NFT casino. Then it was a meme coin casino. And that's where the most volume has been all these years. And, you know, we all know the internet, when the internet started out, there was a whole lot of shady stuff going on the internet right from the start. And it was a huge, huge percentage of the business of the internet. And it still is. But over time, we built more and more and more more desirable business. And I think we haven't had that moment in crypto where a business comes along that does something that captures the imagination of the mainstream. We need to have that moment. When that happens, crypto will get so unbelievably big. It'll get so gigantic because whatever that project is, it will onboard so many people. It's like, how many people had used AI, had legit used AI before that big model release from OpenAI, before that big release where all of a sudden OpenAI got gigantic and everybody instantly knew that AI was the future? Like, who was really using AI before that? How many people actually used AI prior to that? Not many, very few, definitely not the mainstream. We're still in that position. We're still before that OpenAI model release. We're still in these early days when it's just a bunch of us niche fringe edge lords out here using crypto. There's a lot of us now, but we're still kind of edge lords out here. We need the big moment when the mainstream comes in. Having a ZK layer will be very beneficial to bridging. Yeah. Zero knowledge proofs are very, very useful. There's like actual utility there. That's not a bunch of mumbo jumbo technical jargon. Like ZK technology there's a lot of utility there. I agree. And the way ZK bridges work is cool. So you're going back to the fiat mines again, if bear. I don't know. I hope to God not, but probably I will choose that rather than do things I don't believe in. Probably I would choose, probably I would have to choose go back to the fiat mines. I really don't want to. I really do not want to, but I would choose that over doing things I don't believe in just to sustain not being in the fiat mines. So they should just go ahead and double all the outputs for midnight, like double my ADA midnight allocation from the initial midnight launch. I mean, that's kind of what they did. They went from 627 million to 1 billion, and it's retroactive to the start. So you're saying like even in the glacier drop, if they would double our glacier drop allocation, please do. I won't say no. I won't say no. I will not say no to doubling that allocation. I would love that. I don't know if the tokenomics would work out on that one though. This was an increase from 627 million to 1 billion for this phase of the glacier drop for the scavenger mine. Doubling the glacier drop was so much bigger than the scavenger mine, though. I don't think the tokenomics work out if they were to double that, but I would accept it. Polymarket. Yeah, Polymarket is big. And maybe that's the closest. Maybe at Cardano, maybe that is the closest we've come to a Pokemon Go moment. Polymarket still really is gambling. Sub-Zero pointed out it should be gambling. But the weird thing about Polymarket is we've had it before, like Augur, and I can't remember the name of Augur's big competitor back in the day, But we had prediction markets for a long time in crypto. Polymarket just executed so much better on it. I don't know if this is just their marketing or their execution, or I'm sure some combination of both, but they definitely did much better than the previous competitor, previous entrants in that niche. So, but you're right. God, maybe that's the closest we've come. Maybe it is. B117 says Pokemon Go is a CIA app. No, Pokemon Go, please. Yeah, it was pretty sketchy that they were like tracking the GPS location. That one app was tracking the GPS location of so many people. Man, the place I was, the fiat mining I was doing when Pokemon Go came out, I remember it was lunch, it'd be like lunchtime. This is back before work from home was huge. It'd be like lunchtime, and so many people unexpectedly would be going out to play Pokemon Go. And it was kind of amazing because they would all be like, it was like an unbelievable way to digitally get people to congregate in one location. Obviously many locations, but if you picked any one of those locations, like unbelievable way to get humans to go to a single spot. It was like very incredible to watch. Pocado, it's a combination of Pokemon Go and Ada or Cardano. Um, that is better than Gata. Gata. Grayscale Ada. Yes. It's like if you had that Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul moment. I hope that's not the biggest moment for combat sports. I hope Jake Paul versus Francis Ngannou is not the biggest moment for combat sports in this era. That would make me cry a little bit, Adam. I would cry a little bit. um Pocado, gotta stake them all. Yeah, what if you just had like, okay, what if, here you go, guys. What if you just cloned, maybe somebody's already done this in crypto, but what if you just cloned Pokemon Go? And Pokemon Go itself was based on that previous game. What was it called? There was a previous game that did the exact same thing with GPS locations, but where there were like kind of forts, and you'd go and sort of attack the forts. You'd be on one team or the other, and you attack the forts by going to the physical location. And it was tracking via GPS. But what if in crypto, somebody can, if this hasn't, I'm sure this has already been built in crypto. It must be, because it's so obvious. What if you built a Pokemon Go where people had to go to physical locations, and when they went there, it automatically mined coin for them. And they could use the coin to buy merch or whatever, whatever in-game thing they wanted, but they just had to go to a physical location and it mined the token by going to the location. I'm sure somebody's built this. If not, somebody go ahead and build that in Cardano. Give it whatever theme you like. People have to walk to a physical location or travel to a physical location somehow in their town, and it pops up at random, and everybody goes there, and there's a set amount to be mined, and you have to be standing there for it to mine. You make it a short amount of time, not like an hour. You make it like 10 minutes or something, and then you get this cool effect where it becomes like a party. Like everybody shows up in the town square at exactly 1:15, because that's where the whatever the fountain of mana erupts. The volcano of mana is going to erupt at the town square at 12, it's 12:15, and everybody just found out it erupted there. So everybody goes down there to collect the mana erupting out of the mana volcano in the town square. But the cool part is, all of a sudden, there's this social aspect to it, because people are there, and maybe food trucks will show up knowing that a bunch of people are going to be there. It becomes like a little party. Maybe somebody's playing music, people are talking to each other. It's like this spontaneous mixer, with all these people standing around. Okay, we know in reality this would only be young people who'd be willing to do this, and because they grew up with social media, they're not actually as in real life social. So maybe they would just show up and use their phones and not talk to each other. But in my mind, they would show up and actually talk to each other. So there'd be this cool in real life aspect to it, of people, doing a joint activity in the same physical space as each other. Cardano, go. Pocado, go. I think Jordan for America can claim the credits for naming it Pocada. Pocata Go. I guess we get sued if we call it Pocata Go, but you could call it maybe Pocata. Maybe you'd still get sued. So maybe just call it something totally differently. MMO RPG casino. Yeah. What I was in there was some metaverse project that had a casino in it. Which one was it? It was one of the ones that was browser only. And definitely someone showed me where there was a casino inside. What wasn't used, you couldn't use it, but it was a very obviously a casino inside this metaverse, and I'm sure whoever built it had the idea of turning it into a real casino at one point. Kristen says it's almost as if we should build for what people want, rather than trying to convince them they need what we built. Very good point. I mean, this is the age-old tech startup problem. You build a platform you build a technology looking for a use case instead of taking a use case and building technology around it. This is the age-old problem. I think probably a lot of people in Cardano have been in startups like that, where the startup, is like this very interesting technology or very interesting way of leveraging technology to do something, but actually nobody needs it. There's no actual use case for it. Yep, Kristen agrees with Dan. Yeah, I think people, especially people who've been around crypto a little bit, I think people who've been around crypto a little bit sort of know intuitively that Dan is exactly on target here. He's exactly correct. And no surprise, he's like a Cardano OG who was there in the beginnings in Japan. So no surprise there. Okay, Flying Hamilton says, yeah, great point. Still in early days before crypto, and even good AI is in. Yep. We are some niche edgelords, unfortunately, at Cardano. I'm afraid we are. We are the edgelords of the party in the meme. If I refresh, do I lose my night? Had to reset because it ended my session randomly. This happens to me all the time. I reset all the time in Chrome, and I do not lose. I do not lose my stuff. Your mileage may vary, but I have not lost my stuff. Bindo Cam, man, during those 2 years, I was in the fiat mines again. I got so tired. If I told you guys some of the stuff I was doing, you would definitely understand. I was really just doing one thing, but what it entailed, man, bad, dark and grim. I'm tired too. Yep, Bindocam agrees. Refresh is fine. It's stored in a cookie. Honestly, it'd be good if we had a tier 1 stablecoin on Cardano. Midnight, Leos, Bitcoin DeFi will help solidify ADA in the top 5 tokens. Cardano right now is like the dog that caught the car. The dog that caught the car. But by that, do you mean that we're no longer chasing the car? Like it's bad that we caught the car because we're no longer chasing it? Is that what that means? Sign me up for the night double. Yep. I'm down. I'm super down to have I'm really thankful they gave us the retrospective. They call it retrospective. I would call it retroactive. They gave us the retroactive rewards increase in our rewards going back to day 1. I thought that was very nice. Smart Places has something like Pokemon Go capabilities. Okay, I don't know what Smart Places is. I think I've heard of that. I don't think I know what that is though. Still have my Smart Places plot. Oh, it's a metaverse. Never used it. Charles Zard Hoskinson. Yep. Maybe again, we'd probably get sued, but you could definitely just have various Cardano characters. You could be catching various Cardano characters, and that's how you get the reward. If you did that, you'd probably definitely get sued by the Pokemon Go people. New insurance market would be nice. What do you mean? What kind of insurance are we talking about here? Problem is, until they fix taxes on crypto, we're going to be hurt. People don't want to pay for a coffee, then have to claim it on taxes and pay the capital gains. Good point. Yep, we talked about this the other night. I agree. We need the de minimis tax exemption. you know, that's part of why I like some of the gaming stuff, because you can you could go in and earn and, you know, not have to spend, you know, necessarily. You could just earn and hodl, and then, you know, you can kind of control when you have to pay, when you have to think about paying taxes on appreciation. So I kind of like that part of it. Ooh, I like this, Travis. Partner with CD Projekt Red, 100%. I would definitely pick CD Projekt Red, definitely, to use Cardano to purchase in-game NFT collectibles in upcoming Witcher 4 game. I would definitely pick CD Projekt Red and Witcher, Cyberpunk, either one. Obviously, Witcher 4 is going to be before Cyberpunk, but yeah, that would be fantastic. I wish they would do that. I 100% wish that would happen. That'd be great. I think CD Projekt Red could probably, I think any ecosystem would jump at that. So the hard part would be convincing them to go with us and not with, you know, the larger market cap, you know, ecosystems like Solana, Ethereum. So same problem, the adoption problem. But if we could pull that, that would be beautiful. Flying Hambone says, sorry, I forgot to mention, I found refreshing my page and then starting it again at just after 7 p.m. Eastern allows me to capture every hour. Okay. Kapasora, Metaverse, Pocata. Yep. Larian Studios. Okay, tell me what Larian Studios makes. Which one is that? Yeah, this is definitely true. I'm not saying that crypto integrations into gaming work. I think that has not been proven out at all. It's not been proven out that it works, right? We haven't seen like a Ubisoft, you know, launch crypto integration and have it work, or a CD Projekt Red or a Rockstar. They would do it if it worked, right? If they knew of a way to make it work right now, they would do it, but they haven't done it, and nobody's done it so that it really worked. I mean, we had some of the crypto native games. Play to earn was a big theme in parts of the last cycle, and it was not working. It was not working in in all the cases I saw. It was not working. So I agree with that. Okay, all insurance seems too expensive, and their whole mission is to not pay a claim. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe if you could. So the big fear with insurance, just sort of fundamentally, is that you pay into the insurance and then they figure out a way not to pay out on your claim. So maybe if you had some kind of smart contract, you know, obligation to pay out on the claims, then you've got all kinds of like Oracle problems, getting the real world circumstances, the real world conditions that require the payout of the claim. How do you get those into the blockchain? How do you monitor those on the outside? And how do you get them into the blockchain? So there's some issues there, some things that have to be worked out. But I think that's mainly like, you know, having the conditions in the smart contract is not tough at this point. It's the real world to blockchain Oracle. That's the. So, okay, thanks for that. Larian equals BG3 and Divinity. Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 2. Okay, yeah, I know what Baldur's Gate is for sure. So I play a few games, you know, when I've got time, which isn't very often. But I don't know all the studios or all the games or anything like that. Like, I think I play a lot less than people who are actual gamers. I just play a few games when I have time. Cardano has the best network out there, but okay, Otis Fricio, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining. All right. Well, I think we've kind of come to the end tonight. We actually had quite a few little news items for a Wednesday night here. So kind of a busier Wednesday night. We had a few slow days earlier in the week. Aside from the crazy chart action, the crazy price action we were all experiencing in a negative way, So it was kind of nice. We had a few more little news items today. Maybe it's just everybody recovering from all the negative price action. But I hope everybody's having a great week. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have a good day of good news for all of crypto and Cardano especially. But I hope everybody has a great last couple of days of the week. Hope you're looking forward to a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.